Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today, we are joined by Monica Robinson, who is a strategic growth manager for Bloom Growth. Almost couldn't get that out. How are you doing today, Monica?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Bloom Growth?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Monica Robinson, and as was said, I'm Strategic Growth Manager at the organization. And what Bloom Growth does is we are actually a SaaS company. So we sell a software to small and medium-sized businesses. What our software does is, if I really had to give a quick elevator pitch, is it brings communication and accountability to your organization. We're just really big on getting all of those things you have to report on week over week in one place so that it's organized and you can easily share and communicate with your team.
And can you tell me a little bit about, I guess, why is that communication between team members so crucial in business? What happens if that communication breaks down?
Oh, I mean, it's so funny that sometimes we don't think about how important it is communicating within the organization. Simple things like, what are our strategic goals? What is our BHAG? Where are we trying to reach in terms of revenue? But it's no different than if you were in a relationship, right, with your partner. If you're not communicating, everything else falls apart. I need to understand, if I'm on the marketing team, what our goals are. What are the sales goals? What are we looking for in terms of our customer service? Where are we lacking? So when we have these meetings and we're discussing these things week over week in an organized way, we're able to identify what our roadblocks are so that we can move forward and we can grow, as opposed to assuming what those roadblocks are and spinning in circles over and over again because there's a disconnect.
And I guess my question would be, how does Bloom Growth sort of automate or make those systems of communication more streamlined? How does it support that?
Yeah, streamline is the best word for it. So what we do with our software is that we are going to we have a proven process. We know all of those key things from all of the thousands of businesses that we've worked with that need to be reported week over week. So we have a structure where each week you're able to go into our software and all of those reporting tools are listed out in an agenda that works for your organization. So for an example, a lot of our companies that work with us, they work on some sort of operating system. Those operating systems provide them with an agenda of how it is that they run their weekly meetings to help them progress forward. We then will have that agenda in our software with all of the reporting information automatically inputted. So if you're a team member and you're on the sales team, you know that before the meeting, these are your key performance indicators that you report on in that meeting every week. You have those filled out and ready to go. You're not opening up a Google document. You're not looking at a data chart that someone from marketing doesn't understand, someone from client relations doesn't understand. You've got these key indicators that each week you share, and they're either going to be red or green. Red, obviously, we didn't hit our numbers. Green, we did. What that allows us to do is focus. So now those things that are red that we're not meeting, we know we're going to take a note and we're going to discuss those later in the meeting. Same thing with our goals, our quarterly priorities. We know what we're trying to do over the next 6 weeks. And instead of just having an open conversation, they're documented. You have the opportunity to share what's happening with those goals. And then if there's an issue, you can create that issue so that we can discuss it when it's time to discuss. So it's really that organization that changes the meeting. I did not always work in an organization like Bloom Growth. I worked at a large corporation and one person stood up and talked in every meeting. And all the other things that were going on, if you got lucky, somebody brought it to attention, but that wasn't always guaranteed. This makes it so that all of those small things that are really preventing you guys from moving forward are discussed in every meeting because the system has organized it that way.
And Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, you were talking about that this Bloom Growth program, it tracks these numbers, it tracks these KPIs and lets you know whether you've hit the numbers or not. But could you speak a little bit about why those tracking those analytics is so important for a business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the foundation of understanding whether or not you're reaching your goals. So if you don't know where you are in terms of churn rate with clients, or where your inventory stands, or how many
Right.
people are actually opening up your website week over week, you don't know whether or not you're being successful. So now when you get to the end of the quarter and you look at your data, it's all a big surprise. It's like,
Mm.
oh, okay. But if you know week over week where you stand with these things, and you have it organized in a system that's showing you your trends, you can make those changes before you're not able to reach your goal, so that you can turn the wheel and you can readjust. Reporting week over week allows you to readjust when necessary. And that's so important for business growth. If you're not readjusting and you're not paying attention, how are you possibly going to scale?
So I guess a question that I have about this would be, what when businesses come to Bloom Growth and say, that we do need a system like Bloom Growth in place. We need something that's tracking, managing, we need this platform. What are some of the pain points and problems that they're experiencing that would cause them to need a platform like Bloom Growth?
Yeah, there's a few things that we see very often. One of the big ones that we help with is making sure the right people are in the right seat. A
Mhm.
lot of times we work with small to medium businesses, which means people wear multiple hats. So
Mhm.
we may get an organization and we find out the owner of the organization is wearing six hats. And then there's other people that really are not being led into a leadership role. The owner is taking on too much, and they're not giving the opportunity for those around them to do some of the work, because they're afraid that it won't get done. The communication isn't there. So by utilizing our software and laying everything out on the table and understanding what it takes to run the business in a way that's editable, that everyone can understand, you can now delegate better. You can now make sure you have the right people in the right seats. You can now assign goals to the proper people, as opposed to having someone like the owner wearing way too many hats and doing too many things. That diversity and having everyone be involved is important. You need someone there to see the blind spots. And if you're doing everything, you're not able to see them. So we see that very often. And that's one of the big things that the software helps with. Just being able to delegate, being able to see the accountability and making sure that everyone's doing their part. And then we always get the joke, this meeting could have been an email.
Mm.
A Bloom Growth meeting could never be an email. It is detailed. It is the important parts about what's keeping your business moving and growing. It's those things that have to be discussed week over week for progress. And one thing that I love about it is that a lot of organizations, they don't reach their goals because they get lost throughout the quarter or throughout the year. Our system is designed like a scaling system. You have your meeting, you decide what you want to do over the quarter. We then show you how to break that down into digestible parts. So what am I going to do for over the year? So what do I need to achieve this quarter to make my yearly goal? Now you know each quarter what you have to reach to get to your annual goal. And with that quarterly goal, we now break that down into your weeks. So I need to have this much profit week over week in order to get to the quarterly, to the annual. I need to have, this much in terms of new projects, or new contracts, quarter over quarter, week over week. So it's really about breaking it down so that you can see the path. It's not that easy to see the path to growth, because sometimes you get stuck in day to day, and we help you see the path.
What strategies? You said something that was really interesting. That was, a regular meeting could never be a Bloom Growth meeting, and I'd like to kind of focus a little bit more on that because I think that that's really, really interesting. Can you speak a little bit about what differentiates, I mean, an individual Bloom Growth meeting from just a standard work meeting, and I guess how is it structured differently?
Yeah, it's the organization and it's the accountability that we feed
Mm.
into the meeting. So when you're in a regular meeting, in my experience, there tends to be people that talk more, who make it seem like their issues are bigger. There are some issues that are constantly focused on or discussed over and over again, and then we're not able to move on to the other pieces. We have built in mechanisms to help you fight those pit holes that you usually see in meetings. Because we have the way that because we have structured the meeting, it forces you to move into all aspects of what's important. So if you get into a meeting and we are looking at your key performance indicators and there are 2 or 3 things that are red, you're not going to spend the entire meeting just discussing those. You're going to mark them down, and then they are going to be a part of what's discussed when we get to discussion. But first, we have to finish all of the reporting. Because if we just start talking, we may never get to the to-do list that we had as a team. So now we don't know who completed those things and who didn't complete those things. You have to move down to now let's talk about what we promised we'd do last week and whether or not it's done this week. We're able to report on that. If there's an issue, if there's something that hasn't been done, we can now mark that down as something to be discussed and talk about later in the meeting. Now we're going to talk about our quarterly priorities. What are those big goals that we have? Where are we? Are we on track? Are we off track? Have we completed it? Is there a blocker? Oh, there's a blocker. We're gonna ding that as something that we're going to discuss during our discussion time. We're going to talk about what we call our obstacles and opportunities. All of that gets put in a bucket at the bottom of the meeting so that we don't get lost talking about our first issue, and now we've been in the meeting for an hour and all we talked about was this one person's issue, and I feel like I didn't even need to be here. We didn't even talk about anything on the marketing team or on the sales team. All we talked about was this finance issue. No, we've bucketed all to the end, and now as a team we decide what's important for us to discuss today. Not only do we decide what's important to discuss today, we have avenues of how we solve that. Is it done? Did we communicate and it's over and we write some notes that are now going to be archived? Or are there to-dos? Does someone need to do something to get this complete? What do they need to do and who needs to do it? So next week, we can see whether or not that got done. And then if it's something that's even bigger than that, do we need to break this down into other conversations? Do we need to save it for another day? And we go down the ticker like that. Okay, we talked about this issue. We figured out next steps. Let's move on to the next issue. It stops it from being a one-man show. And often meetings tend to do that.
Right. Well, and we here at Leduc Entertainment, we use Bloom Growth to run our meetings. And I was in a Bloom Growth meeting just this morning. And I wanted to focus a little bit on, you mentioned obstacles and opportunities. And I was hoping that you can maybe sort of highlight a little bit the importance of that step, because that has been kind of a bit of a game changer for us here at Leduc, is the O&O segment of these meetings. Can you speak with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I kind of discussed the O&O in terms of the obstacles and the things you need to discuss to fix. But the beauty of it is it's not just obstacles. I mean, there's all these opportunities that you come across within the organization that are exciting, that you want to discuss and see how you can optimize them to grow your business, to expand, to make things better. So that's an opportunity to bring those to the table as well, to see how you can best utilize these opportunities that are in front of you. It's really this place to jot down all the things that you believe are affecting the business and group things and brainstorm and figure out what the next best steps are and assign those next best steps so that they actually get done. I mean, how many of us work with a visionary that has 1,000 great ideas and it's like zoom, 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 zoom. But when you get into this organized meeting and we can write these down and say, that is a great idea. How do we achieve it? What do we do? Who does it? What does it look like? That's such a big piece of the puzzle. We all have amazing ideas, but being in that O&O lets you talk about how to achieve those ideas and set next steps for those ideals that are documented. And that's the key part too. I don't come into a meeting and say, well, who said that they were going to call Partnerships for Profit so we can get on the podcast? It says right there, Monica agreed to call and schedule a time for the podcast. Nothing goes swept under the rug.
Right. And your focus is on organizational leadership. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's
And
the head of business.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role and your specialty there? And I guess I was wondering, as in, focusing on organizational leadership, how do you foster relationships both, with clients, but also foster relationships within the team?
Yeah, that's very interesting because they're so similar. When it comes to relationship building, I have been in the role of relationship building for more than a decade of my career, for almost the eternity of my career. I started in this space, so to speak. And one of the things that I have learned over the years is how important the vulnerability is in that relationship, because
Mm,
it's so important that you break down the barriers so that people are comfortable providing you with feedback so you can improve your part of the relationship and what it is that you provide to them, and making sure that you're able to take that feedback and use it, and vice versa, so that you're in a position where you can provide them with feedback. Sometimes when you're offering the service, you think your only job is to take feedback and to optimize to make the client happy. But in a real relationship where you guys have really built something together, they want feedback from you too. There's nothing. I love when I have the opportunity to suggest something to a business that's really going to help them grow. Not just, hey, did you see this new button, or look at this cool thing the software does, but you know, Adrian, after we had our meeting last week, I really thought about what you were saying about the O&O within your organization, and I thought about the issue you were having with someone on your team, and I've got these suggestions for you, and I think that maybe you should give them a try and see how they work for me. Or even I noticed that when we have our meetings, we tend to trail off and have a discussion about this. And today, I really want to bring it back because I think it's important that we really discuss this thing. But that takes a real relationship. That takes vulnerability, being able to tell someone we need to redirect, or you
right.
should try something different. So the vulnerability, the providing of feedback, the being open to criticism, and the optimizing is a big part of the communication.
And you spoke a little bit about the importance of vulnerability, but can you tell us a little bit about the importance of adaptability for a business to be able to adapt in order to grow?
Absolutely. Um, I'm going to do a story time with
I would
the
love that.
adaptability. Yes. So Bloom Growth has been around for over 10 years. We had to make a huge pivot. I believe it was about 2 years ago now. We used to be a software that was licensed and only for the EOS methodology of operating systems. And we made the decision that we were going to become agnostic and be available for multiple methodologies. I think at this point, we are now working with over 20 plus methodologies, and we actually have our own operating
Oh,
system.
wow.
That was a huge pivot for our organization, a huge opportunity to optimize and expand what we were doing to more than just this one community of business operating systems. And it was a great success for us. We had to make changes to our software so that we can change the terminology, so that we can change the agendas, so that it can really be opened up so that any organization that was looking to change the way that they did their business day to day and was looking for a system to help them do that, we could be that person. We could be that
Mm.
software. And it was difficult, and there were bumps in the road, and we had to find a new voice and a new story and um, almost new software. But at the end, it was just such a successful thing. It always speaks to the fact that taking a step back and jumping over those hurdles always makes the optimization worth it. It's what you have to do if you want to grow.
What are some of the, I guess, common mistakes, common errors, common pitfalls, problems that businesses face when trying to adapt the way that Bloom Growth adapted?
Um, Company buy-in is always very difficult when you're making drastic changes to an organization. And
Mm,
it's difficult because somewhere we're missing the why. You
mm,
have to be able to explain to your organization why we are doing what we're doing. What does that mean? How does it affect you? How does it affect our clients? How does it affect the growth? Like what is it that we're trying to achieve? Don't mistake that this team only needs this information. Everyone has to be bought into the goal of the organization. And when you're making those big changes, when they're not, it's obvious. They don't want to use the software or they don't want to use the methodologies. They want to do things the way they've been doing them. But that's because they don't understand why they have to make those changes.
And I'm wondering, when you're handling these organizational leadership and you're handling these kind of situations, how do you handle a business owner that say does not want to adapt? Is there or say there's a situation where you have a firm, right? Like a law firm, and one partner wants to adapt and the other doesn't. How do you address those situations?
That's a really good question. And I will say that one of the things that is really, really wonderful, especially for me and the role that I am in the company, is that we work with a lot of organizations that have dedicated coaches.
Mm,
So we have coaches that refer their clients to our software as part of their process, but they actually have a dedicated coach that is working with them to break down all of the barriers and to get their organization in line. They have a set of, particularly in the first 90 days, they have these key meetings where they're really bringing the company down to the bare nuts and bolts, the bones of the organization, and then building it back up with that proper foundation. And having that piece in place makes it all so much easier for the software part of things. So that's not an easy, quick answer. That
yeah,
takes the coaches that we work with months.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you share with us, maybe, is there a story when you think back on all the businesses that Bloom Growth has helped, that you have helped? Is there a story that stands out of a client or a business that you saw really a positive transformation in as a result of Bloom Growth's aid?
Oh, there's so many examples of companies that have just succeeded on Bloom Growth. I mean, honestly, we run over 100,000 meetings a month on our software, and
Oh,
that in
wow.
itself is an example of, just how powerful the meeting software is and it's helping organizations. I mean, we have a net promoter score of 9 out of 10. So once we get people in the software, using the software, and believing in the change and the progress, they're shooting off like a rocket. I would say in this, not this year, because boy, we're only two. I wish I had one from this year. January 15th, the success. But over the last 6 months, I recently was shared an article from one of the clients that utilizes Bloom Growth. They had not even been on the software for a year, and they were in the article for, it was Milwaukee, as one of the like top 10 new businesses on the scene. And so they had just had an explosive year. And I know that a part of that was from them utilizing our software. I mean, they were in their
Wow.
local business newspaper. So that I helped that client start on the software and get signed up. So I definitely felt like that was such a win for us.
So when you're bringing Bloom Growth to a new company that has never, used any kind of platform like that, how do you help them transition and help the team members transition? Because I would have to imagine that there's a fair bit of a learning curve to the platform. How do you get them through that period?
There is quite a bit of a learning curve. As I mentioned, we do have those coaches that we work with.
Mm,
So part of our methodology is that if you're coming in and you don't actually have a coach that you're working with, we do offer you the opportunity to have a few meetings with one of the Bloom Growth coaches that use our operating system that we've actually
right.
created ourselves. If you are working with a coach, then we're able to modify the software to however they are teaching you. And then if you prefer to what we call self-implement and do this on your own, we have unlimited training. So
Mm.
we have a team of professionals that will run and help you put the software together so that you have everything in its place. So once you come into using the software, most people already have their business plan that they're working on. They already have some sort of ideal of their key performance indicators or their scorecard or their metrics that they're looking at week over week. And they already know what team members are helping make those bigger decisions within the organization. So we'll take those things, get them set up in the system for you, and then give you a basic training of how you're supposed to run your meetings week over week. And then we meet you where you are. You reach out, you want to have a training, you need to discuss some things, you are able to get on our calendar within 24 hours.
Wow.
We'll help you work through it.
Now, do you find that most business owners and most businesses need that training, or do you find that more are adapt or at self-implementing the platform?
Um, I I would say that it strongly varies. The
Mm,
platform itself is a very easy to navigate. It's not a difficult platform. So there's not a huge learning curve in terms of using the software. It's the methodology. It's the operating system part that takes a little bit more work. And those that are successful, they may not be using a business coach, but they've done some sort of educating on utilizing an operating system. They've read a book, they may have taken some sort of course, just sort of teaching you a operating system of some kind. Those are the most successful because again, that why is really important.
right. And could you share maybe some strategies that business owners could utilize to implement Bloom Growth more effectively to get the most out of it?
Absolutely. I would say that if you are implementing Bloom Growth and you really want it to be effective, one of the first things that I would do is I would sit down with my team and I would look at that organizational chart. I
Mm,
would make sure that we have delegated the right roles and the right responsibilities to the right people. And if you've done that the right way, when you are setting goals for your quarter or for your year, they are going to be in line with the roles that are designated on your accountability chart. So
wow.
if you've got somebody in a certain seat and this in the marketing seat, and we're having a conversation about the vision and what the company looks like in terms of content, that should be their responsibility. They should have goals and to dos around that. And if they don't, then there's something that's misaligned. So a lot of people think we know everybody's job. We've got that part. No, you got to sit down and break that part down and make sure that that's right. And then I would say um, definitely doing some retrospect on the communication and the culture of the organization because these meetings aren't easy at first. When you have to sit down and put issues on the table and you're used to sweeping them under the rug, that's not always the simplest thing to do. And it's not going to work if you continue to go into the issues list with no issues. There is no
Right.
way you're running a company and you don't have multiple issues to discuss. I mean, I don't know how a family sit at a dinner table without multiple issues to discuss. So a business should definitely have things to talk about week over week and have to be figured out.
Absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit about, let's say that there is a business that should be implementing Bloom Growth and should be implementing this platform, but they choose not to, and they just keep carrying on the way that they've been carrying on. What does that look like?
It looks like a CEO that's working 60 hours a week, that's
Oof.
barely making it to the dinner table, if he's ever or she's ever making it to the dinner table. It's looking like organizations that have been in the red or have not seen any growth in years. They have hit that glass ceiling and they're just not able to break through it. A lot of times it looks like cultural dysfunction. There's arguing within the organization. There's people that clearly don't get along. There's blaming of why this didn't work or that didn't work on other teams. It just looks like a place I don't want to be.
Right.
It looks like an uncomfortable organization. It looks like high turnover. A lot of those things are really a part of poor communication and poor accountability.
And if there was kind of a single piece of advice that you would give to a small business owner or entrepreneur that is looking to implement Bloom Growth into their strategy and their daily operations, what would that piece of advice be to them?
That would be to contact me. We offer a 30-day trial. We offer all the training that you could possibly need. We offer data inputs to help you fill out all of the information on your software, on your workspace. Please reach out to us and let us help. We've been in the game for 10 plus years. Like I said, over 100,000 meetings being run monthly. This is what we do and we love to do it. And we love to do it for you.
And to all the small business owners, entrepreneurs, anybody out there listening that could use the help of Bloom Growth, where can the people find you?
Well, of course, you can go to www.bloomgrowth.com, and right on the top right-hand corner, you can sign up for your free trial and schedule a demo, or you can just simply send me an email, monica.r@bloomgrowth.com, and I'll be happy to point you to the right direction.
Well, Monica, thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation. You've been a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, too. It was a pleasure to speak with you, and to all your faces out there I can't see, it was a pleasure to meet you, too. Have a great day.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Monica, thank you again.
Yep. See ya.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.